What is up, guys? I'm back here today with another video. We're here in the new year 2023. Hope you all had a lovely New Year's, however you guys chose to celebrate. And you guys know what that means, right? You know what the new year means. It means it's that time again for the Smogon Tier shifts. Yes, so of course we have the usage stats for OU for this month, but we also now have the usage stats for UU since that's been out for a little bit now, which also means that now RU is officially a thing, so that's very exciting. And of course, on top of that, we also have the regular rises and falls for the mons between the tiers, so a lot to go over. But before we get into all that, if you guys do enjoy these types of videos with me talking about the tiers, make sure you leave a like on this vid and subscribe to the channel, as it does help me out a lot and lets me know that you guys want to see more of these kinds of videos in the future. So with all that out of the way, let's jump right into it. So first off, we start where we always begin, with OU. So my man Great Tusk at the #1 spot still. He was technically #1 last tier shift, because I mean technically he was #3, but the top 2 spots were Fluttermane and Palafin, which are both banned, so technically now not counting those guys, Great Tusk was still #1, and he still is, which is, it makes me so happy. This Pokemon is so good, guys. He is so good. He's like, I've said it before, he's basically just the Lando T for this meta currently, and I've thought about it, and I feel like, honestly, even after like Pokemon Home comes out and Lando T comes back, I still feel like this guy's gonna be pretty good, and maybe even better than Lando, because thinking about it, like if you go look at Lando here, he's been nerfed quite a bit, if I can spell. He no longer has Defog, he no longer has Knockoff, he doesn't have Superpower, he doesn't have Rock Polish, so he's lost quite a bit. But Great Tusk, on the other hand, Great Tusk still, he's very, very versatile, can do a lot of things that, Lando can't anymore, because Great Tusk still has Knockoff, he gets Rapid Spin, so he can get rid of the hazards, and I don't know, I just like, and he's got a super deep move pool too. I feel like, I don't know if he's gonna flat out replace Landorus. I doubt that's gonna be the case, because Landorus is still very good in its own right, obviously, but Great Tusk may still be better than it, even when it comes out, which is crazy to think, right? Because Landorus has been the GOAT since forever, right? But it seems he might have a new challenger here, so we'll see what happens with that when Landorus comes back. But again, I don't think he'll get fully replaced, but he'll definitely have some competition now, and that'll also mean that Great Tusk will have competition as well, so it's definitely gonna get a little less usage than it has right now. It's definitely not going to be #1, but it's still going to be a great Pokemon. Honestly, still probably going to be like top 10 maybe when Home comes out. Actually, probably not right away, because there's going to be a lot of crazy broken stuff running around when Home comes back, but after those guys are banned, I wouldn't be surprised if Great Tusk is still in the top 10, because he's just that good, guys, and he's like especially good right now in this meta, which is why he's number 1, right? Because he gets rid of hazards. He's like the best hazard remover that we have currently. He can get up hazards as well. He can run them offensively or defensively. Ground is a super good offensive stab right now, like, 'cause there's basically no ground resists in the tier, right? I mean, you got like Dragonite here, but Dragonite usually terrestrializes, turns into like a normal type usually, so after it terrestrializes, can't really switch in. And besides that, you have like Corviknight and Rotom Wash, and like that's basically it. Like those like the only things that can switch into an EQ or a Headlong Rush from this guy. So he's so good right now. I love Great Tusk. I'm so glad he's good and he's prospering. It makes me very happy. As I said, he's probably not going to stay that way forever, but for now at least, he's killing it. Then we got Golden Go at #2, so like just barely less usage than Great Tusk by 0.2%, which is kind of crazy. I was kind of expecting Golden Go to be the most used. I guess he just barely wasn't, though. I was kind of going off of other like statistics I've seen online, but I guess those were outdated. But Golden Go was still such a good Pokemon. as I've said before with this guy, that he has like no drawback. He's so good. He's got like one of the best dual types ever, probably like top 10, if not top 5. He has like a definitely probably like top 5 ability ever. He's got an insane ability. His stats are pretty dang good. He's got an amazing special attack. He's got decent bulk. Speed's not great, but it's like it's usable. You can work with it. And he's got pretty good moves. So like, this Pokemon's so good, guys. This Pokemon is phenomenal, which is, it's no surprise people are using it as much. Also just fits on so many teams as well. Same with Great Tusk, so that explains, why they have so much usage right now currently. Although I do feel like a lot of people were kind of complaining about Golden Go at the start of the gen, feeling like he's too strong, like he's kind of constricting on the meta a little bit. Although I feel like now that sentiment has changed a little bit. I feel like people have started to learn how to work around Golden Go, and also just that like in general offense has become less prevalent than it was initially. Still very good, but it's not like as dominant as it used to be a little while ago, and that definitely makes Golden Go not as threatening, because one of the best things Golden Go did was he just enabled offense so much. But as offense has fallen off just a little bit, Golden Go hasn't been that dominant, I guess, but he's still phenomenal, which is why he has such high usage. 37, almost 38 on both these guys is crazy. That's ridiculous usage. That means these guys are on a third of all teams, more than that even, which is pretty insane. So yeah, these dudes are running shop, which is not surprising. Both very good, both easy to fit on teams. And then we got Chi-Yu down here in number 3, which is, again, to be expected. This Pokemon, guys, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I hate to inform you all, because it does make me sad a little bit as well, but it is the truth. This Pokemon is going to get banned at some point. It's way too strong, guys. This Pokemon cannot stick around. It's just way too strong. It's way too strong. There's like no good counterplay to this thing in the meta right now. It's just like it's gonna get banned. It's way too strong. This thing is this is like Mega Houndoom plus Darm-G. That's how I think about it. This thing's basically like on Darm-G level with how strong it is, because you just like come in, right? I mean, like Darm-G, he's got massive attack plus Gorilla Tactics. Chi-Yu also has the crazy special attack plus its ability, which basically it's like having a life orb boost basically for free. Got good speed, especially with Choice Scarf. You got these strong ass stabs. You got Dark Pulse to flinch, and then like that's like the same stuff Darm did, just spam stab, flinch with Icicle Crash. Like I really do think this thing's like Darm-G level. If I'm being honest, this thing is super duper cracked. So I don't think it's going to stick around, unfortunately, but that is what it is. But for now anyway, people have been using it a lot because it is like probably broken. So number 3 slot does make a lot of sense. Not quite as much usage as these guys, but still, I guess that might just be like Chi-Yu given like less utility to teams it's on, but that doesn't really matter when it's that strong. So yeah, that makes sense to be top 3. It's probably not going to be around for much longer if I'm being honest, but hey, it is what it is. Dragonite and Iron Valiant being this high, and Ting-Lu as well. Ting-Lu at number 6. These 3 being this high kind of surprised me. Mainly Dragonite, right? Because Dragonite's getting used a lot right now. Like, it is very good. You usually see like the Terra Normal E-Speed set. That's like the main one. But I've also seen some other like unique sets. I've seen one going around that is like super wild. It's like Fire Spin plus Encore. So you just like trap them in Encore, and then you could just like just hit them with Dragon Claws. Yeah, Roost to stick around. This is a crazy set. I don't know who came up with this, but this is like next level. So this is a pretty good set, honestly. Kind of like maybe just a little bit cheesy, like matchup fishing, but like still good. I've seen people do put in some work with this set. So Dragonite definitely good. Definitely getting a lot of usage. But number 4, dude. Number 4, 28%. That seems like a lot. That's people are loving Dragonite apparently. So that's pretty crazy. I wouldn't expect him to be in the top 5. That's for sure. Iron Valiant, not far behind him. Iron Valiant is super good. Don't get it twisted, but I still feel like there are some other like more powerful Pokemon in the tier currently, which we'll get to. A few of them also in the top 10, but I mean Iron Valiant, I get it, right? He's like super strong, especially with booster energy. He just becomes super fast. Very versatile. Can be a mixed attacker. Has a lot of good moves. Good stats generally. It's just, I don't know, but like number 5 seems pretty crazy. I guess people just like it because like with booster energy, it's so fast it can just shut down a lot of more offensive teams. But I don't know. I feel like we got other threats in the meta, such as, well, before I get into them, let me talk about Tinglu briefly. Tinglu at number 6, kind of wild. We didn't see that many bulky Pokemon this high last tier shift, but like Tinglu has really come up, which I guess is understandable because of how good it is, right? This thing's so bulky, it never dies. It's great at getting up hazards. It can phase stuff out with Whirlwind. It's just really a big issue and hard to deal with. So my guess is people have been like latching on to Tinglu as a way to deal with those more offensive teams, and just like try to put a stop to them, which I definitely understand. But I think Tinglu getting more usage than Qianpao is kind of crazy, because Qianpao, guys, is another Pokemon that is insane. It's not quite Chi-Yu level. I don't think it's that broken, but like Qianpao is crazy, guys. Qianpao is so strong. Qianpao is so strong, dude. You see these stats? You see this? You see this unholy? You see these freaking moves, bro? This Pokemon is scary, man. This is very scary. I feel like, it might be getting a little overlooked because Chi-Yu is still around, which is understandable, I guess. But like, I feel like once Chi-Yu's gone, because like I said, it's probably going to get banned, I think people are going to start looking at Qianpao a little bit more, because it's like the next best good, like, strong offensive dark type in the tier, right? This thing is just, I don't know what to say. This is just mega Weavile, basically. That's basically what it is. He's just stupidly fast, amazing coverage. This Pokemon is good as hell, guys, and I feel like it should be higher than number 7. I feel like it should probably be top 5, if I'm being honest. I think it's probably better than both D-Knight and Iron Valiant. Qianpaos are so stupidly good. And Dragapult is also very good right now. Dragapult rose up a lot. I feel like it's kind of supplanted Roaring Moon a bit. As you can see, Roaring Moon's down here at 14, which is still, respectable, but not quite as up as Dragapult is, because I feel like, at the start of the gen, right, people were loving Roaring Moon, and I can understand why. I mean, you just look at Roaring Moon. This dude's crazy. He's got amazing stats. He's got a good offensive typing, and it's just like, he's the new kid. Everyone loves a new kid when a new gen comes out, right? So people were using this guy a lot. At first you saw the booster energy D-Dance set, then you saw a lot of Choice Band, but now I feel like people have moved away from Roaring Moon a little bit and started moving towards Dragapult, and just sort of realizing that Dragapult, he still does the thing, bro. Dragapult is still that guy. He's the fastest Pokemon in the tier naturally, which is always going to be a plus to Pokemon's viability, right? Still has great offensive typing. He can do a lot of the stuff that Roaring Moon does, and then some, right? Because he can also D-Dance and run like Choice Band, but you can also run him special. You can have like Specs, right? Which is not something Roaring Moon can do. And he's just like, overall, I mean, I still think Roaring Moon's like great, obviously. I think both these Pokemon are great, but I think people have moved a little closer to Dragapult, I guess mainly because the speed, and also maybe just being a little more consistent and I guess flexible on a lot of teams, so it's not that surprising really. Dragapult is still that dude. Forever will be one of the best Pokemon ever. There's no way he couldn't be. He's absolutely phenomenal. So the rise up does make a lot of sense. And right behind him we got Annihilape at 9. This Pokemon, guys, I'm gonna say it again. We got another Pokemon that is maybe busted. I don't know, but busted might be a strong word, but like Annihilape is stupidly good. This Pokemon's just so hard to deal with, right? Because you guys all know the set. If you guys have been on Showdown at all, if you guys have played OU, you know exactly the set. All right, it's this set that you can never beat ever because it's just unbreakable, right? You got first of all, this thing's amazing, has amazing bulk. 110 HP is crazy. At like 80, 90 is like pretty good. It's not like amazing, but with the HP, that's like definitely usable. So like you invest in your Spadef, right? Then you have bulk up to boost your defense and your attack. You got Drain Punch for recovery. You got Rage Fist, which is a stupid move. I don't know who thought of this at Game Freak, but this move is absolutely absurd. You got Taunt to shut down like Whirlwind shenanigans and stuff like that. You turn to a water type, so you just like have great natural like resists, and it's difficult for stuff to knock you out. And like Ghost Fighting is just like some of the best coverage ever. This Pokemon is just so. This Pokemon is a demon, bro. I'm telling you guys. This Pokemon, do not underestimate Annihilape, because if you give him the chance to get going, this Pokemon can easily sweep teams single-handedly. Once it gets set up, this thing is not to be messed with. An absolutely ridiculous Pokemon. Is it going to get banned? I don't know. I've heard like arguments for it and against it. Heard people say it's like Annihilape's not broken, it's just Rage Fist. That is crazy, but I don't think that logic would save it from a potential ban, because if that were the case, then they probably just still would ban Annihilape, because Primeape also gets Rage Fist, and Primeape is definitely not broken with Rage Fist. So I don't know what's gonna happen to Annihilape, but all I know is this Pokemon is crazy, and you guys gotta watch out for him. I think he's definitely better than like a lot of these guys that are above him. He's definitely, I think him and Chiampao should probably both be top 5, if I'm being honest. These guys are crazy. Then we got King Gambit at 10. King Gambit, also makes sense that he's like rising up, getting so much more usage, because this Pokemon, again, he's also scary. I wouldn't like go as far to say he's broken, but like definitely hard to deal with. And definitely a Pokemon like Annihilape, where if you give him the opportunity, give him an opening, this Pokemon can simply just run through your whole team, especially with this insane ability, Supreme Overlord. You always got to be careful with this guy, right? If someone's using him, because you could be ahead, right? You can have a bunch of their Pokemon get knocked out, but if they have King Gambit, they can always bring this guy in and then just sucker punch, sweep your whole team. So he's definitely scary. It's something to be careful of. This Pokemon is, again, I will never know who at Game Freak thought they needed to give Bisharp an evolution, but like, this is one of the craziest Pokemon I think I've ever seen. He's so damn strong. He's got amazing bulk. With Terra, you can just like bypass your weaknesses and stuff. You can turn into like a flying type, and then it's like, what the heck's gonna kill you at that point? And it's like, he's just so strong with the Stab, Sucker Punch, and the Supreme Overlord. It's just this Pokemon's a menace. This Pokemon's definitely scary and one to watch out for. I don't think it's gonna get banned anytime soon, but he's definitely. I understand why he's in the top 10, because he's a scary Pokemon, and honestly, maybe, just maybe, a little, not super skillful, but I'm not here to make allegations like that, so we'll just keep it going. So that's the top 10 for OU. There is some other stuff I want to talk about. generally, I think like comparing it to last tier shift, I think it's interesting how, you know, I mentioned earlier like the prevalence of like hyper offense has gone down a little bit. Again, still a really good play style in the meta right now. Like the meta in general is still very offensive, but we've seen like a big decline in, I guess, what you could call like some cheese strats. Glamora has fallen out of the top 10, which, I mean, it's still number 11, so it's not that low, but people used to, they were spamming Glamora a lot just to like set up hazards at the beginning, and you can still do that very well. People are still using it, obviously, but it's not getting used as much anymore. Cyclozar really fell off, which surprised me. You know, I think he was top 10 before, right? Or very close to top 10. It might have been like around here, but people aren't using him as much because I guess, you know, I mean, people were saying like maybe thinking Cyclozar should maybe get banned just because it was like it just did too much, right? It was like it's like the best support Pokemon ever. Like it has Shed Tail, which is a crazy move that's arguably broken. And on top of that, it can Rapid Spin, it can knock off, it has Taunt, U-Turn, all this support, and it has Regenerator. Just a crazy mon that can do so much for a team, but I guess looks like it's fallen off a little bit, which is very interesting. I guess people have been adapting to it. So I don't know, maybe it doesn't need to get banned after all. It's just I don't know, it's very interesting. Grimmsnarl also seemed pretty low because I feel like people have low-key been spamming Grimmsnarl like screens teams a little bit on the ladder. Maybe not spamming, but like I've seen quite a bit of them. So I was expecting them to be higher, honestly, but I suppose that's not the case. But you guys, again, if you guys have been on OU, you probably know what I'm talking about. You know, it's got like, you know, Grimmsnarl screens plus Cyclozar, Shed Tail, plus like maybe Palmont, Revival Blessing shenanigans, those type of teams. Speaking of Palmont, rose up to OU in his tier shift, which is cool for him. It makes sense because he got Revival Blessing finally, or rather, they got Revival Blessing working on Showdown. So, as I predicted, people would start using him more once that got working. But he hasn't been as like, well, not him specifically, but I guess Revival Blessing in general hasn't been as crazy as I may have expected. Because, you know, I was thinking Revival Blessing had me tripping because like I have no like, there's never been like a precedent for that kind of move in Pokemon before. You can just bring back one of your guys. That's like, it's kind of crazy. So I didn't really know what to make of it, but I think at least the general consensus right now is it's not a huge issue. It doesn't like, it's not really on the radar for like getting tested or whatnot. It's still like a good move, right? But you know, it does have some drawbacks, right? You know, giving up a move slot for it. It's only 1 PP, but you can run Lepa Berry to get around that if you want to. So you could bring back 2 of your guys maybe. So I don't know. I don't think it's that crazy right now. Probably also due to the fact that it's on some Pokemon that aren't especially good. Palmont's like all right without Revival Blessing. Like if you look at his stats and stuff, he's not a bad Pokemon by any means, but he's not really like OU material, you know what I mean? But Revival Blessing does boost him up a bit. And then you got Rabsca, which is like, I don't know what this Pokemon. I mean, it's pretty strong special attack, but like, it's very, very slow. Bug Psychic's pretty bad type, so I don't know. I don't think he's that good. So I guess probably more than anything, the Pokemon that have Revival Blessing currently are kind of what's keeping it in check, which I guess makes sense. I think that's fair to give a move like that to some Pokemon that aren't exceptional, right? Because if they gave it to some crazy stuff like Golden Go or whatever, just some nonsense, then that'd get out of hand pretty quick, I feel like. But for now, at least on Palmont, don't think it's a big issue at the moment. Also, we got Iron Hands once again, barely making the cut into OU, just like last time, which is pretty funny. Also, kind of crazy that Palmont has more usage than this guy as the electric fighting type, which is kind of wild. I mean, I get the Revival Blessing stuff, right? But Iron Hands, I feel like people are kind of sleeping. Iron Hands is good as good mon, guys. This Pokemon is very strong, 140 attack, very bulky, 154 HP. This thing's like impossible to kill in one hit. Like, this dude can eat an earthquake easy. I mean, the main downside is, right, he's kind of got some weak moves. He's got Ice Punch for coverage, which isn't that great. He does have Wild Charge, which is like, it's always been like a weird move for physical electric types, right? Because it's like okay power, but the recoil is kind of rough. So if you want to forego that and run something else, then your next best option is like T-Punch, which is also not very strong. So that's kind of one of the things holding this guy back. But he's still super strong and very bulky. And I guess another downside of him is he's pretty slow, which is a little bit unfortunate. But I still think Iron Hands is a very good mon and should not be ignored. I feel like people may be sleeping a little bit. This guy's very, very strong. And I think he has a place in the meta for sure. But yeah, what else would I talk about? I guess we can talk about the rise of Hat at number 15. That's pretty high, honestly. Higher than I was expecting. That's pretty firm place in the tier now. So Hat started rising up after last tier shift a bit, mainly as a way for offense teams to kind of get past Ting-Lu, right? As we mentioned before, Ting-Lu is a very, very good Pokemon right now, and just like in general, it's kind of hard for offense to deal with it. You know, he can kind of shut down offense because he's impossible to kill. He's way too bulky, and he can just like whirlwind out and stuff, and just like hazard stack, and he's just all around a pain. But Hatterene is a nice way to get around that, because Hatterene has Magic Bounce, so it blocks the hazards for one, but arguably more importantly, the Whirlwind from Ting-Lu, which is a very, very big deal. And then what people would like to do is they'd go Terra Flying, so you'd be immune to Earthquake, and then you could just kind of wall Ting-Lu and just like start setting up in its face, like Calm Mind, Stored Power, that type of stuff. So Hat is a pretty good Pokemon right now, which I can definitely see why. It's very strong, has some solid bulk, although the HP is a little bit lackluster, but I guess you can still work with it. I think more than anything, just Magic Bounce is such a good ability to have right now, because you gotta remember, Golden Go is still running around like crazy and still is so good at keeping hazards up on the field once you get him up, right? Because he's the ultimate like hazard removal blocker, right? Because he's immune to Rapid Spin, and you can't defog him because of his ability. So with Golden Go running around, it's very hard to get hazards off once they're up. But if you have Magic Bounce, then you can keep them from going up in the first place, which is definitely a nice luxury to have in this meta, I feel like. So yeah, Hat rising up, cool to see. I guess talk about the starters, which I'm kind of surprised Quavel has as much usage as it does. The fact that it has more usage than the other two starters definitely surprised me. Not what I was expecting. I feel like I did predict that people would start using Quavel more once Palafin got banned, and that did turn out to be the case. But I didn't expect like more than the other two guys, because I still feel like Quavel is probably, at least currently, the worst of the three. Not to say that it's bad, but like I don't know, just kind of surprising that it's like surpassed the other two, at least for the moment. Because I mean, I guess Meowscarada I kind of get, because like people aren't like big fans of Meowscarada at the moment, because they just feel like it's like not quite strong enough, and you know, it doesn't have a super deep move pool. Kind of does the same stuff most of the time. You see like Flower Trick, Knockoff, U-Turn, obviously with like Protean, and like maybe a Choice Band or Choice Scarf is somewhat common as well. And then last move is kind of whatever. You can have like Play Rough, you could run like Spikes maybe or something, or whatever. But Meow, I still feel like is pretty decent right now. I mean, it's pretty good, like offensive spiker. Still has stab knockoff, which is always going to be a huge plus for any Pokemon. And the stab U-turn with Protean, I don't think you can count out, because being able to click U-turn with stab is really nice, I feel like, because you can do quite a bit of chip to Pokemon while also just getting momentum. So I don't think that should be underrated. And while it's not, its stats aren't like, stats are good, but it's not the fastest thing in the tier, and it's not the strongest either. But so I guess that does kind of put it in a weird spot, but I still feel like it's pretty solid right now. And Protean, even after the nerf, Protean is still a pretty good ability, right? Having stab on anything, it can never be bad, I feel like. But the thing that really has me like scratching my head is why Skeledirge is so low and lower than both of the other starters, because I do not understand how this could be. Because guys, Skeledirge is a great Pokemon. This Pokemon's fantastic, which makes me happy, because I was initially expecting it to probably not be that great, but it has proven me wrong. This Pokemon is so dang good. I don't get why it's not like more people aren't using it. Because like, first of all, it's got Unaware, and Unaware is like one of the best abilities right now, probably, because like, not just Dirge, but the other Unaware guys like Dondozo and Clodsire are also very good. It's got some like pretty nice stats. This is like pretty good bulk. Good bulk for sure. It's got Slack Off for recovery. It's got Will-O-Wisp, so it can status stuff. And it's also got one of the best moves ever, Torch Song, so I can just like start boosting its special attack like crazy. This thing can be like a bulky guy that can stop offense, but it can also set up for itself and like potentially break through teams. This Pokemon is so good, guys, and it always turns into a fairy type, so it's like it has great defensive typing, and it's hard to deal with, and it basically just becomes Clefable at that point with Unaware and the boots. This Pokemon is so good, and I don't understand why its usage is so low. I mean, it's still like in OU, like it's not like dropping down, but it's getting kind of close, which I just don't really understand, because I think it's still really good. It's definitely better than the other two starters, at least in my opinion. So I don't know why people be sleeping on it, but Dirge is phenomenal, guys, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I think this Pokemon should be way higher up. Should definitely at least be like in the first half of the tier list. But yeah, that was my little rant on Dirge. But yeah, I think that's mostly everything I wanted to say about OU. It's definitely interesting to see how it's evolved over the past month. But now let's talk about UU a little bit, because UU is quite interesting. So I'm not going to go over all this because it's kind of a lot, but you guys can see for yourself, and also then just see the stats on Smogon and on their Twitter and whatnot. Which, by the way, follow me on Twitter if you guys haven't already. Anyways, so UU, the stats kind of surprised me. I guess I haven't like kept up with UU that much. I haven't like been seeing a ton of people play it. So I guess I could explain it, but I don't know. I feel like they did kind of catch me off guard. First of all, starting with this thing, Tinkaton at number 1 is definitely, I was not expecting that at all. I guess it kind of makes sense, right? If you look at some of the other strong Pokemon in the tier, you have Espathra, which I'll get to later, but Espathra was running around, and Tinkaton was a pretty decent answer to it defensively. You also have Hydreigon the Beast, which Tinkaton can also handle all right. And there's some other guys too. I guess Grafai technically, but it's not as big a deal. And I guess sort of Gengar. But like the thing is, I feel like I think defensive Tinkaton's pretty good in the tier, but I feel like I've seen more people using offensive with like Swords Dance and stuff, which I don't know. Maybe that set's not as bad in UU at least as I thought at first, but I don't know. I'm still not a huge fan of that set because for one, Take a Ton is pretty darn weak. If you look at it, its attack stat, very very mediocre and very sad, 75. But I feel like even with that, even with like Swords Dance and whatnot, like because the main draw of like an offensive set would be like Stab, Gigaton Hammer, right? Because Gigaton Hammer is insanely strong for no reason. It's like Steel type, Giga Impact, except you don't have to recharge, but you can't use it twice. So I feel like with that kind of set, with like the Swords Dance set, a lot of times you just kind of, you SD up, you click Gigaton Hammer, maybe get a kill, but then you can't click it again. So it's like, well, now what do you do? Do you just like go for knockoff or play rough? I feel like, when you click Gigaton Hammer, it feels very strong, but then when you go for other moves, it feels a little bit lackluster. I feel like it's not as strong as it seems. So I don't know about the Swords Dance set. Maybe it's not that bad in OU, but I think defensive Take a Ton is definitely not bad. Can deal with quite a bit, but number one in the tier really surprised me. I guess I don't know. I just wasn't expecting that. I mean, people do love this Pokemon for sure, so that could be a part of it. But generally, people using a Pokemon a lot just because they like it is not usually enough on its own to bump a Pokemon to the number one spot in a tier, right? Generally, it has to, be a good Pokemon in its own right in the meta to make it that high. So, I don't know. Tinkaton really surprised me. Really, I guess it's doing the thing. I mean, a Fairy Steel type can only be so bad, right? It's definitely like one of the best types ever. So, yeah. We also got Hydreigon at number 2. Not that surprising because Hydreigon is a beast. Azu at number 3. I didn't expect it to be this high. Definitely Azu is a good Pokemon in tier, but like number 3 is pretty crazy. In general, I feel like a lot of the usage surprised me. Like seeing Pokemon so high, like Armarouge, Sandy Shocks, Mimikyu at number 9 is kind of crazy. I didn't realize people were using it that much. Grafaiai, I feel like makes sense. I've seen like a fair bit of Grafaiai. It's definitely a pretty good Sportmon. So Slitherwing being high up also makes sense. Slitherwing is a great Pokemon. It's good in OU even, but in UU especially, this Pokemon's just very, very strong. And of course we have Espathra, who again I will get to, but that thing was running around like crazy. Honestly, I was expecting Espathra to have more usage than this even. I was expecting it to be like top 5, top 3 even, if not number 1. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. Also, I guess just going down, looking here, another Pokemon I was expecting to be higher up was Staraptor, because that thing, I feel like that thing still has like 0 switch-ins in the tier. But it's only at 28, which is very surprising to me. I feel like people may be overlooking Staraptor. Talonflame has more usage than it had. It's got number 11, which I'll be honest, I have no idea why. I feel like I haven't even seen Talonflame that much in UU from what I've played. So I don't know why it's this high up or why people are using it. Because I don't think the Gale Wing set is that good even, right? Because I feel like at that point, why not just use Staraptor, right? I feel like it's better if you just like want to spam Brave Bird. So I would guess people are using like bulkier sets with like, Boots, Flame Body, Will-O-Wisp, stuff like that. But I don't really know. It just kind of confused me when I saw this. I just wasn't sure what to make of it. I guess maybe like physically defensive Talonflame could be like a okay answer to like Tinkaton or maybe Slitherwing as well. But even then, it's like, I don't know. Like Talonflame's not that bulky. It's not like a wall. So I mean, it can burn those guys, but like if they're not burnt already, it's not going to take hits very well. So I don't know. That kind of confused me, but yeah, Hatterene also was very high up in UU, but of course since we saw the usage stats, it's also number 15 in OU, so that means now it's not UU anymore because it's got used enough in OU that now it's OU. So UU lost a good amount there. Donphan at 13 just makes me happy. This is the Donphan generation, guys. Like, both great tusks at number 1. Iron Tread still very good at a respectable 18. And then we got regular Donphan still putting in the work in UU. It just makes me really happy. I just love this. It really is Don season, and I'm very happy. You could say I'm a fan of the Don even. So yeah, but it's Donphan. Basically does the same stuff. It's just like mini Great Tusk or Iron Treads, right? It's still just Earthquake, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rocks, Knockoff, all that. He's still pretty good. Bisharp at 14. Eviolite Bisharp has been going kind of crazy, which I do get, but I feel like, I don't know, I wasn't sure if it'd get like this much usage because it doesn't have knockoff anymore, which means it has to use like Night Slash, and Night Slash isn't a very good move, but I guess, just the bulk with Eviolite is still enough for people to use it. You can also run stuff like Stealth Rocks on it, which is cool, so there's that. Pelipper at 19. I was expecting him to be a little higher. I mean, I guess it's like not that bad usage, but like, I don't know. I feel like I see people spam Rain in UU all the time, so wouldn't have surprised me if this guy was top 10. But he's not quite that high, I guess. And on that note, there's also, we see quite a bit of guys who are strong on Rain in the tier, have good usage, like, Kilowattrel over here. And you got Floatzel as well, which I really love to see this. I was not expecting this at first, but people have shown that now that Floatzel has Wave Crash, it's actually pretty dang good in Rain as a Swift Swimmer, which I love to see that. It makes me so happy. It's like the first time Floatzel has ever been like actually viable, which is really cool. I think that's, because I like Floatzel a lot, so it makes me happy to see him prospering. He's proven to be so good in Rain. In fact, he's actually outshined Barrascuda, it looks like, just going off the usage stats, which is kind of crazy. Because Barrascuda used to be like the Swift Swim guy on Rain. But now more people are using Floatzel, which is pretty funny. And obviously people are still using Barrascuda, but like not that much apparently, because he almost didn't make the cut. He's the last Pokemon made the cut to UU, so that's kind of interesting to think about. We could have had Barrascuda and RU potentially, but Rain's still good enough that he just barely made it in. Iron Thorn's down at 40. Kind of surprised me. I feel like this Pokemon's really good, and I feel like I've seen it quite a bit, so I'm not sure why it's this far down. I definitely think you should be higher, because it's just a really good Pokemon, and like I don't know. I think this Pokemon like is good even in OU, so I feel like for him to be this low in UU is kind of crazy. Because I mean, dude just has great stats, and it's just like really scary to deal with, especially like the D-Dance set. If this dude gets set up, it's like, I don't know, bro. With the booster energy, can be kind of scary. And then he can turn to a flying type so he can dodge the ground types and stuff. I think this guy is pretty scary and definitely a threat. So I don't know why more people aren't using him, but I guess maybe we'll see him rise up more. I don't know, but I definitely feel like people are sleeping. What else do I want to talk about? Wo Chien, my boy. It makes me happy to see him in UU. I'm glad he's found his place. Because in OU is definitely pretty lackluster, but I feel like in UU at least he has a solid niche for himself. Because he is still super bulky, even if he doesn't, his typing's not the best, but I think in this tier he's at least able to wall out more stuff, which is I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see Wo Chien found his place. You know, he may not be able to kick it with his bros in OU, but he's doing the thing in UU, which, you know, I'm proud of him for that. And yeah, also I guess on like another note, it's kind of interesting to see like there's actually quite a few bulky grass types in this tier. We got Toad Squirrel down here, Bramblegast. Some people are using Brute Bonnet, so I guess, you know, grass types aren't really cutting it in OU, but in UU, I guess it looks like they're not that bad actually. So how about that? So yeah, Screamtail this low in UU, kinda, I wasn't expecting that. Screamtail is again, much like the other Paradox Pokemon, stupid good. And I mean, like, I can kind of understand why some people wouldn't be that on board to use it, but like, again, like Iron Thorns, I think is a Pokemon that's also very good in OU, and like, I feel like people are kind of sleeping on it because this thing is so bulky. This thing is so bulky, it never dies. Look at these stats. Look at this HP. It's got great defenses. It's very fast for like no reason, randomly. Offense is pretty terrible, but like, you know, that doesn't really matter that much with a Pokemon like this. I mean, you can click Dazzling Gleam just to get like some chip off on guys, but like, I don't know. I think this Pokemon is just very, very strong, and very difficult to take down, and I don't know. I just expected it to have more usage than it does, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, we also got Gallade up here, which is cool to see. I was definitely expecting Gallade to be used more, because now, if you guys didn't know, he has his new ability, Sharpness, which is a very cool ability, a very strong ability also, because it boosts, as you can see, boosts the power of slicing moves, whatever that means, by 1.5, which is an insane boost. You guys gotta understand, that's like a choice band boost, but you're not locked in, and it's just on your cutting moves, which means like stuff like Sacred Sword gets boosted, you got Psycho Cut getting boosted, and a bunch of other stuff like Night Slash, like Leaf Blade. I mean, it's such a good buff for Gallade. I feel like he's just the best he's been in a long time, like probably since he had a Mega. So I mean, I don't know, it's just cool to see that they give him some love, and now he's actually quite strong again. So yeah, I think that's mostly what I want to say for UU. Definitely cool to see how it's developed over the past month, and now it's actually officially a thing. It's like a full-fledged tier now. It's not in beta anymore. It will definitely be cool to see where it goes in the future. So yeah, now we got that covered. I guess now we can talk about the shifts that happen between the tiers, because they are kind of interesting. So let's go over, starting off at first, of course, with the rises from UU to OU. We got Azumarill moved up, which kind of caught me off guard, I feel like, 'cause I feel like, you know, I saw Azu a bit in OU, but like not that much, but it's like risen up quite a bit. It's people using it more than stuff like Torkoal and Grimmsnarl, which is interesting. Also, I guess I could mention, I didn't meant to talk about it before, but the fact that Torkoal is a little bit lower than it used to be, I guess, you know, kind of shows, again, on the theme, like people not using like cheesy offense as much. You know, some teams have kind of dropped off a bit. Not that bad, because I mean, still like Torkoal's still like firmly in OU, but like, you know, people aren't like quite spamming it with like with the past mons with photosynthesis and stuff anymore. So that's something to think about. But yeah, Azu getting used as much in OU as it is kind of caught me off guard. But I mean, it makes sense. And we did see here Azu was number 3 in UU. So now that this thing is gone and it's OU now, it's definitely gonna shake up the tier quite a bit. But yeah, it's cool to see him move up. My boy Moposhnak, aka Don Schnack, aka the Don, did mention to me the point that Azu can act as like both a Chi-Yu and Chien-Pao check. You can run like AV on it, and then you resist all of Chi-Yu stuff. You also resist Chien-Pao's dual stab. So that is a cool set. I don't know if people are using it that much. That might just be my boy Matt's invention, but regardless, it does kind of, you know, show that Azu does have a place in the tier currently, so it's cool to see him there. And of course we got Hatterene moving up, which I already talked about that a bit. Palmont moved up again, talked about that because revival blessing. Yeah, it's not that surprising. People were starting to use him now. And then Rotom Wash also moved up. So I guess I'm gonna talk about. I didn't mention Palmont in UU, but people were using them also quite a bit. Again, mainly for the revival blessing stuff. So now that he's not in the tier anymore, I guess people gotta use Rabska if that's if they want to revive their Mons. But yeah, there's that. And then Rotom Wash was also used quite a bit in UU. He had number 16, which is kind of seemed a little low to me, honestly. I was expecting people to use him a bit more because I feel like he's just such a good, like, bulky pivot mon in the tier. But alas, he is no longer allowed to be used because he's in OU now. And as you can see, he's pretty high up in usage in OU even. So I mean, it's not that surprising. I mean, Rotom Wash, like, in the first place, he just barely made it into UU at all, just because he was just, like, last tier shift. He just barely didn't make the cut into OU. So that's how he got into UU for a little bit. But, I mean, it's not that surprising that he went back to OU just because, like, you know, like, I'm pretty sure he was, like, the first Pokemon cut off from OU last tier shift. He just barely was under the necessary usage, which is pretty funny. But now his usage has gone up, which makes sense because Rotom Wash is very, very good Pokemon. And yeah, realistically, probably should have never been UU in the first place. But now everything's been corrected and he's where he belongs, firmly. You know, making a name for himself. So yeah, that's the rises. Not that much that I didn't expect. I guess besides Azu definitely, like, was a bit of a surprise to me. But, like, the rest of these guys, I was kind of expecting them to rise up because, you know, they're getting used a lot for the reasons I mentioned previously. So there is that. That's the rises. Now let's talk about the falls because I think this is the part that's more interesting. So first of all, this is disrespect at its finest. Baxcalibur dropping from OU to UU. Who let this happen? Who thought this would be okay? Why were people not using Baxcalibur? Baxcalibur is a phenomenal Pokemon. He's got, look at this massive attack. He's got great bulk. His speed's pretty good. It's not great, but it's good. Dragon Ice is amazing dual stab. He's got a great ability. Can't be burnt. He's got strong-ass moves like Glaive Rush that are 120 base power, and you can just spam it. And it's not like Outrage where you're locked in. He's also got Icicle Crash. He's got freaking Priority with Ice Shard. He's got Earthquake, or he's got D-Dance, so I can set up with him. This Pokemon is so good. Pokemon's so good, guys. So why is he in UU? That's what I don't understand. Who let this happen? This is a travesty. This is a crime. This is a shame on the competitive Pokemon community that we let this happen in the first place. That people were not using Baxcalibur enough in OU. So now he's UU. Really, really crazy stuff. I do not expect this guy to stay UU for long at all. I think this guy is super getting banned from the tier. I think he's just he's way too strong to hang around. He's just, yeah, I don't think there's any shot he stays. Again, I don't know why he fell off to begin with, but I guess people gotta put respect on Baxcalibur's name, guys. What are we doing? Crazy stuff. But moving on from that, Charizard also fell off. This was expected to happen because Charizard was only technically OU like by the last shift in the first place, because if you guys remember, like, the Charizard terror raid things happened, so he just kind of like, that was the first time Charizard was in the game, technically, legally at least, because he wasn't at launch released yet. So that is kind of, since he finally came out, they could just kind of dropped him in OU, and we just sort of had to wait until he inevitably fell off, because of course that was going to happen because it's Charizard. But yeah, I mean, he did briefly get some usage in OU just on like Sun teams, like with solar power, like Terrifier overheat stuff, which is pretty interesting to see people were using that. Sort of like a budget Chi-Yu, I guess, but why would you use that when Chi-Yu is still right there? So yeah, that's that for Charizard. Probably still gonna keep dropping down. So I guess we'll see this dude in NU one of these days. But moving on from him, Ditto dropped down. This is also kind of expected to happen. Ditto got used a lot at the start of the gen because again, hyper offense used to be very dominant, especially like first week. Like there was it was just pure nonsense, just like strong as shit Pokemon just running around, and it's just Ditto really thrives in those like hyper aggressive metas because it's able to just like turn into other strong mons and just reverse sweep people. So made sense that he's got quite a bit of usage at the start, but now he's fallen off, which I think is probably a good thing, because it shows, I think, a healthier meta progressing. Because when I think Ditto being meta, I think of Gen 8 Dynamax meta, where Ditto was like top 3 or top 5 usage, which should never be a thing. I feel like if Ditto's like very strong in the meta, then that means offense in general is extremely dominant, meaning other playstyles aren't as much. So I think a balanced metagame should be one where lots of different playstyles are viable, and not just one over the others. So I think if Ditto was too strong, then I think that's kind of should be sending off some alarm bells saying like, hey, maybe offense is a little too good right now, which is definitely what the case was in Dynamax meta. So the fact that Ditto is falling off, I think, is probably a good sign, because it means offense isn't as dominant, which again is good because we want a diverse meta. So yeah, there's Ditto. Low kicks drop down. This was also kind of expected to happen, but it's also, I guess, a little sad because Low kicks is a very cool Pokemon who's still pretty good, honestly. Like, his stats aren't all that, but like, he's got Tinted Lens plus super strong stab priority, so I feel like just because of that, like, he can't be that bad. Like, he's still pretty good. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he made it into OU last month at all was kind of a surprise. Like, he was like number 20 in usage, which is crazy. I guess that was just like the new gen hype, right? Everyone wants to use the cool new mons. But now he's dropped off a bit, which I still feel like he's pretty solid in OU, but definitely I understand why the fall off happened, right? But that aside, I do think this mon is going to be pretty good in UU. Honestly, I think he's definitely going to find a nice place in the meta, because like yeah, this dude's just really strong with Tinted Lens. There's not a lot that can switch into him, so I think he'll definitely find a role, and probably, I don't think he's going to drop out at UU. I think he's going to be good in UU, because again, he's not a bad Pokemon by any means. He's very strong, so yeah, it's going to be fun to use him in UU now. And moving on from that, Mousehold also dropped down to UU. This is kind of like pretty much the same situation as Low Kicks, although I don't think Mousehold's usage was as high as Low Kicks' was last month, but still, it was kind of the thing of like, new mons, people wanted to try them out, and people saw population bomb, and they're like, oh my god, this Pokemon's insane! And yeah, so it made sense he was around for a little bit, but he did fall off quite a bit. which does make sense because, you know, while Population Bomb is very strong from this Pokemon, that's kind of all it does. It's kind of all it has going for it, because the rest of its moves are not that strong because its thing's attack is not very strong. It's only because Population Bomb is stab and technician boosted and it hits 10 times that it's as strong as it is. But you know, outside of that, Muzzle's not the best. I mean, he is fast, which is always nice, but yeah, can't really hit ghost types at all. I mean, you can bite them, I guess, but it's not even going to do that much damage, even with the technician boost. And also, as people found out, this Pokemon really struggles against Rocky Helmet in general because Population Bomb does make contact. So if you hit all 10, then you can take Rocky Helmet chip from all 10. So, you know, and people are using Rocky Helmet a lot on Garchomp specifically, in tandem with Rough Skin. So if they have a Garchomp and you click Population Bomb, they just come in and for every hit you take Rocky Helmet recoil and Rough Skin recoil. So basically you would just kill yourself from recoil when you click Population Bomb, which, you know, of course is not ideal. But yeah, so Maushold, he was just kind of like a fun mon. People were using at the start, but now he's dropped off a bit, which I definitely get. As for how he'll be in UU, I'm not sure what to make, because again, Population Bomb is pretty strong on this thing, especially if you like Terra, but I don't know, this is also kind of just a one-trick Pokemon, and I feel like it's not going to be too hard for people to adapt to it, so I don't know, we'll see what happens, but maybe Population Bomb is enough to make this guy a little too strong, so maybe he'll get banned, we'll see what happens. Definitely be interesting to use this guy in UU. Next up on the drop is Orthworm. Again, people were hyped for the new mons, and you know, then some of them kind of fell off, and Orthworm definitely fits that bill. I mean, he's a decent Pokemon, right? I mean, his stats aren't like crazy. He's got a really good defense, but that's kind of it. Does have a very good ability with Earth Eater, which is basically, it's like ground water absorb, basically ground absorb even. So that's a really cool ability to have on this guy, especially a Pokemon that's weak to ground. Really just makes, you know, his typing even better defensively, because now he only has 2 weaknesses, unless you find him like something with Mold Breaker or whatever. But yeah, Orthworm, I mean, he is funny. I do like Orthworm, but I do get why the hype kind of fell off, because I feel like he is kind of exploitable. He doesn't have any recovery, so you kind of just have to rely on leftovers, which is never great. He can like Iron Defense, Body Press stuff, but I think there are better Pokemon that can do that in the tier, like Iron Treads and Great Tusk can both Body Press. They're both pretty good at it. So I don't think, you know, Orthworm was doing anything that crazy. So yeah, and of course I have to mention the main thing that this Pokemon had going for it was Shed Tail, which is cool, but of course in OU you still have Cyclizar, who can also Shed Tail, and that Shed Tail a lot better than Orthworm can, because Cyclizar has Regenerator, so it doesn't worry as much about losing its health from Shed Tail, and also crucially is way faster than Orthworm, so it's just better at getting Shed Tails off in general. So with this thing in the tier, there wasn't that much reason to use Orthworm to Shed Tail on your team and whatnot, so makes sense that he fell off. But I do think this is very interesting, because now it means we have a Pokemon with Shed Tail in a lower tier, so I'm very curious how people will use that in UU now. I think it's going to be interesting. Again, it's not like a horrible Pokemon. Like, he's a Steel type, good bulky Steel type that's immune to ground, and he's, you know, can Body Press stuff. He hits hazards, which is always great to have. I don't think he's that bad of a Pokemon. He's not amazing by any means, but he still can do some stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if he proves to be strong in UU just because of Shed Tail. We'll see how that what ends up happening with that. And the last Pokemon that fell off from OU to UU is my boy Tyranitar, and this is very much, this is like a Baxcalibur situation. This is so sad. This is so sad. It really bums me out because, you know, T-Tar deserves better. T-Tar, people gotta put respect on his name, is what I would say. Except this Pokemon has, you know, he has fallen off a little bit as time has gone on, which is very unfortunate. This is not the first time he is UU. He was UU last gen as well, briefly in Gen 8. He briefly fell down, but then he rose back up, reasserted his place. But just the fact that T-Tar had dropped down to UU for literally the first time ever, like, you guys gotta understand, this Pokemon was OU since the day it was made. And, you know, when he fell off for the first time, I was like, oh my god, T-Tar UU? That shouldn't be a thing. But here we are again, and it's just, I don't know, the decline of this Pokemon is just very sad to me. I think, you know, it all went wrong when they took away Pursuit from this guy, because that was one of the best things he had going for it, like one of the best Pursuit Pokemon ever. But then he just didn't. But like after he lost that, just kind of, you know, it all's downhill from there. I mean, if we look at OU, right? I mean, you can kind of understand why he'd fall off, because, like, what you want a defensive Dark type that sets up hazards? Then just use Tenglu. You want a defensive Rock type? Then just use Garganacl. Like, he's just kind of outclassed, right? It's just sad to see. And if you want to use offensive T-Tar with like Deep Dance and stuff, you should probably just use Iron Thorns at that point, right? Because Iron Thorns also has Deep Dance, also has very good offensive move pool, and crucially is faster than Tyranitar by a little bit, not a lot, but still it is faster, which always is nice, and still has the same attack. So, you know, this thing's probably better as a D-Dance mon than T-Tar is. So I don't know, it's very sad to see. Yeah, even though this, like, T-Tar is probably arguably one of the best Pokemon that can handle Chi-Yu, who is the most broken Pokemon in the tier, right? Because, you know, T-Tar is very bulky and can resist both its stabs. Even that is not enough to give this guy enough purpose in the meta at this point, which is just, it's so sad. It's so sad. They've done my boy so dirty. And I mean, you know, unlike last gen, I don't see this guy going back to OU anytime soon, unless like they bring back Excadrill, then like maybe, but I don't know. There's just not a whole lot of reason to use him right now. And I mean, like, he's got Sandstream, right? But in general, like, Sand isn't as good as it used to be, particularly because there's not a lot of Pokemon that benefited from it right now, right? Because the only Sand Rush mons we got are, like, we got Houndstone, who's banned, and then we got Lycanroc, who's, like, you know, isn't that great, and also doesn't need Sand Rush that much because it's already fast. So it's a tough spot for T-Tar. That being said, I don't think there's any possible way this Pokemon could be bad in UU, just because his stats are too good. Like, you can't have stats like this and be bad in a lower tier. That's just not possible. The math does not check out on that one, so you'll definitely find some niche, I'm sure. But yeah, it's sad to see. Although I cannot say that I am surprised by this. It is what it is. So rest in peace. Pour one out for my boy T-Tar. His day in the sun is no more. It's very sad. But now that we got that out of the way, that's all the drops for this shift. And now, one more thing I want to talk about is this thing, the freaking bird. So, surprisingly, this caught me off guard. I was expecting Espathra to rise up to OU, much like the other guys. Because again, last shift, kind of like Rotom Wash, it was kind of surprising that Espathra wasn't OU in the first place, because it was getting used quite a bit, it felt like, but didn't make the cut. So it was free to run around in UU and rampage for a whole month which is, I still have nightmares about that. But I feel like everyone, myself included, was expecting Espathra to rise up to OU next shift, but it did not get enough usage, which is very weird. I guess, again, it's kind of part of that phenomenon of, people have started to adapt and move away from like the cheesy HO that people used to be using a lot more, like last month or like a few weeks ago. And like Espathra is like a staple of cheesy HO because, if you guys know what Espathra does at this point, right? You guys have seen this Pokemon. You got the freaking speed boost, and then you set up combines, and you got the stored power and all that. You can, Dazzling Gleam, the Roost, and this Pokemon is very, very low skill and very cheap. But I guess, people aren't using it as much because, I feel like kind of like some other Pokemon, Espathra, people have like adapted, adjusted, and it's not as threatening as it used to be. Because I remember people like not that long ago, like a couple weeks ago, I remember people being like, dude, Espathra is so broken, this Pokemon's so hard to deal with, it just sweeps my whole team, blah 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 blah. But now it's like people found a way around it. Mainly Ting Lu, because you just bring in Ting Lu and then you Whirlwind, and then it's like, what does Espathra do? Because you can't stored power Ting Lu, and like you could Dazzling Gleam, or like you can run Terra Blast Fighting maybe, but unless you got a lot of Calm Minds up, that is not gonna one-shot Ting Lu, because as we established previously, Ting Lu is unkillable. So Espathra not cutting it anymore, I guess. So did not make the cut into OU. However, to the surprise of absolutely no one, this Pokemon is way too strong to be in UU. So the UU Council has decided, now that the tier is out of beta, that they would be immediately quick banning Espathra from the tier to be the first Pokemon in BL, which I definitely understand why and saw coming, because there's no way. Espathra was just way too good in UU. It was like the best Pokemon, and it was over centralized the whole tier, and it was way too much. It was way too strong. So that's why, as you can see here, that's why it's in parentheses, because technically now it's banned. So it was number 7 in usage, but not anymore because it's not allowed in the tier, which I say good riddance, because the bird is annoying and I don't like it very much. So yeah, Espathra, the first Pokemon banned from UU, as I predicted when UU dropped and I saw Espathra was in the tier. So I was right about that. My prediction came true. Granted, it took like, a month longer than I was expecting it to, but I was still right. So don't you guys forget that. So yeah, with that is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. The usage stats, the tier shifts, and the Espathra ban from UU. I could, I guess, talk about briefly now that RU's out. Since UU is out of beta, RU is now officially a tier, which is very exciting. Definitely be fun to check out. There are some crazy strong guys down here. First of all, there's a lot of fat mons, like Blissy's down here, Slowbro is down here, yeah, Florges, and stuff like Umbreon, which is pretty crazy to see those Pokemon so far down, but I guess it makes sense, right? With all the nerfs Stall has gotten in this gen, a lot of these bulky Pokemon, they're just not as good as they used to be, especially like those like mons that, ones I mentioned, kind of like Umbreon and Florges, that just like they don't do much for a team, right? They just kind of sit around and not die, but they don't really achieve much in the long term of a battle, which I feel like is definitely, that's something you want out of your bulkier mons right now, right? So if you look at OU, we got stuff like, the good bulky Pokemon are like Ting Lu, we got Clodsire down here still, Garganacl, Pokemon that can do stuff like, they can set up hazards, or they can just shut down certain Pokemon, or they can like still be threatening with stuff like Body Press. or stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of these bulkier Pokemon that are falling off just don't do enough to justify using them currently. So I guess that makes sense. But it does kind of make me think like, you know, if so many of these bulky Pokemon are falling off, then like at what point are they going to be like threatening again in a tier? Because like we got all these fat Pokemon in RU now, and it's like, well, is it going to get to a point where they're like strong enough that they'll be like used a lot in the tier, or are they just going to keep falling off? And if they keep falling off, then at what point are they going to be good again? It's just, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I feel like at some point, maybe with RU, but if not, probably later, then you know, the fat mons are just going to keep falling down until we get to a point where we just get like the fat tier, basically, in one of the lower tiers with all the bulky stall mons in it, which would be something to see. Sounds like it wouldn't be a very fun tier to play, but we'll see what ends up happening. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting for me to think about, because stall used to be such a prevalent way to play the game in like past gens, in like OU especially, but now it's fallen off big time. So maybe we'll see the day where stall is like a lower tier strategy. Who knows what's gonna come of that? But anyways, yeah, a lot of bulky Pokemon, but also quite a few strong mons. We got Lycanroc down here, which I don't know why Lycanroc Dusk is RU. I think people are sleeping on this Pokemon big time. This Pokemon is pretty menacing. People gotta watch out for this guy. They're sleeping. They're super sleeping. But they also got stuff like Toxtricity is in RU now. We got who else we got? Big Heracross is RU, which, you know, love my dude Heracross. And who else is in RU? Let me go back and check. There's some other guys. Big Raj, my boy. I love Copperage. Dragalge was one I was thinking actually could be sick, because if you guys didn't know, he's got adaptability, and how adaptability interacts with Terra. If you Terra into a type that you already are, you get like a free adaptability boost off that. But if you already have adaptability, then like it stacks, so like you become turbo strong. So I feel like some like Specs Dragalge, like Terra Dragon adaptability could be pretty crazy. I feel like that's kind of unexplored, but I think they could definitely be strong. Flamigo and RU is kind of disrespectful, but I also kind of get it. But like Flamigo is a good Pokemon, guys. Do not sleep on this Pokemon. This thing, it's like a mini Galarian Zapdos. This thing, it does one thing, but it does it very well. You go Choice Scarf, you got Scrappy, then you click Close Combat or Brave Bird, or you can U-turn out, and then the fourth move doesn't matter. You only need these three moves, and that's Flamigo, which, you know, it sounds one-dimensional, which it kind of is, but I think this Pokemon's still really good. He's got 115 attack, that's not to be taken lightly, and 90 speed's like not amazing, but with the Choice Scarf, then you're still faster than a lot. So yeah, I think Flamigo, I think he was very good in UU. I think people were not, you know, exploring him enough, and I feel like he's still pretty good in OU even. So the fact that he's RU now is pretty disrespectful, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, I kind of get why he wasn't used in UU that much, because, you know, you also had Staraptor in UU, who's kind of like, you know, he's kind of better than Flamigo. Because, like, you know, he also has Close Combat and Brave Bird and U-turn, so yeah, I guess, you know, makes sense that he was kind of outshined in UU, but I still feel like this Pokemon is really good, and it's probably going to be very good in RU, so watch out for that guy. Who else is RU now that's worth mentioning? Who's like down here? Talk about Slowbro. Venomoth, I think, is going to be very cool, because again, much like Low Kicks, he's got tinted lens, and Venomoth is actually quite strong once you set up a few quiver dances, and you got like Bug Buzz, you got your Sludge Bomb, and of course you can put stuff to sleep with Sleep Powder. Venomoth is pretty clean. He's always been pretty good in lower tiers, I feel like, and I guess we'll see if he's ends up being too much for RU. We'll see what happens. But we do have Blissey in the tier, so I don't know if that's going to be the case. Also, I didn't even mention Blissey is an RU, guys, right? But also, you can use Chansey in RU, so you can have both these fat guys in RU, which is very crazy to me. I don't know how this happened, but all I know is I'm happy. I'm happy Blissey's out of OU. It's good to see. Things return to how they were intended to be, with no Stallmons in RU. I'm glad Game Freak fixed their game. So yeah, that's that. This is the most tragic for me. Magnezone in RU, dude. Who let this happen? How is this a thing? Magnezone used to be that guy. He was like T-Tar, he was like an OU staple forever. Like, he used to be so good, but now he's RU. How'd this happen? Bro, like Magneton used to be RU. Now Magnezone is an RU? How is this happening? Well, I understand why. It's because, like, the thing Magnezone always does is he traps the steel types, but he's not, like, that good at that anymore. Because, like, if you look at OU, right? What does he trap? He can't trap Golden Go, because Golden Go's a ghost type, and ghost types can't get trapped. So, there's that. What else? What other steel types are there? He can't trap Iron Treads, because he's just going to Earthquake you, and then you die. I guess you could run, like, a Terra Flying set on Magnezone, and then I guess you could work past that, but still you need to, like, set up body presses, and then if they also have Iron Defense body press, you probably still lose that 1v1, so yeah, not that great. And then, like, what other steel types are in the tier? Scissor's gonna close combat you in the face, and then what are you gonna do? I guess again you could, Terra Flying maybe, but and then, like, I mean, you can still trap Corviknight, which is great, but it's like, is that it? Is that all you're doing? I guess you could trap King Gambit and, like, body press it, but, like, King Gambit's really strong, and he might just OHKO you with Sucker Punch if a few of their Mons are already dead. So I don't know, man. It's just tough for Zone at this point. Also, the fact that the best Pokemon in the tier is a ground type doesn't help it that much. So I don't know. It's just sad to see my boy fall so far. But we'll see what ends up happening. I did have the thought that, well, even if there's not a lot to trap, the fact that he's just still, like, a really strong electric type, so I'm sure he'll still find something he could do in RU. But then I thought, well, Toxtricity is also RU, and he's also a strong electric type but he gets Boom Burst and stuff, so it's like, why would I use Magnezone over Toxtricity in that situation? So that's, yeah, I hate to say it's not looking good for Zone these days. Very unfortunate. Also, Weavile's RU, which is pretty crazy. Again, like Zone, it used to be a thing where, like, this mon's pre-Evo used to be RU. Sneasel used to go crazy in RU, but now Weavile, he's fallen so far. So sad. I think this is the first time Weavile has been RU ever. I think the lowest it used to be in the past was UU, but now he's RU. It's just, like, the fact that he lost knockoff is so sad for this mon. Made him so much worse. Although I still feel like, something like this, like Swords Dance, Ice Crash, like Night Slash, even if it is pretty weak, you can still, like, boost it with Swords Dance, and then you have, like, Ice Shard or whatever. I still feel like a set like this could go pretty crazy in RU, just because there's not a whole lot that switches in, I feel like. But yeah, it's just so sad. They just made better Weavile with Shampoo, and then it was just done for him. It's so sad. Why'd they have to do him like that? And he also got the T-Tar treatment, where they took away Pursuit on him, which is very disrespectful. But it is what it is. Hate to see him fall down like that. But I haven't even mentioned the most heinous Pokemon that's in RU right now is freaking Haxorus. Who let this Pokemon in RU, bro? This is like Baxcalibur all over again. It's like, how did Baxcalibur fall out of OU? How did Haxorus fall out of UU? How is a Pokemon with this much attack being RU, bro? I don't understand it. I really don't. It just does not add up. But I can tell you one thing. I don't think this Pokemon will last in RU for that long. Well, if it's anything like UU, it probably will last for a bit because they're not going to ban anything for a month until the tier's out of beta, like what happened with Espathra. So probably like Espathra, this thing's just going to hang around for a month and just tear through the tier and probably end up getting quick ban once RU is actually officially a thing. So yeah, that's that. I don't know. Haxorus kind of scary. I don't know about that, but yeah, that is what I wanted to say about RU. Looks pretty fun. I'll probably be trying out RU a bit now that it's out, but I've been going on for quite a while now. This video's gone on for quite a bit, and I've kind of just started rambling, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. So thank you all for watching again. Truly, if you guys made it to the end, thank you. Not a lot of people do that, especially with videos this long. But yeah, I would love to know your guys' thoughts on the tier shift and everything that happened, on the rises, the falls, the Espathra ban, how you think the Pokemon will work, Pokemon that drop down to UU, how they'll shake things up, and what RU is going to look like going forward. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to hear, but I think I've said all I have to say, so I'm going to tap out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.